Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all have been able to enjoy the food and you enjoyed the music that we had in the theater in celebration of our Black History event today. My name is Jasmine. I am the Community Services Lead here at Harbor's Edge. I work in the Resident Services Department, and I've been here for almost 3 years. Next month will be 3 years. I actually started out as a part-time concierge and was recently promoted back in September to my current role. This video presentation, I will be speaking about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and hopefully it'll be very informative for you and you'll learn a few more things that maybe you weren't really aware of before. And so what I'd like to talk to you about today are Black Greek letter organizations that were started in the early to mid 1900s. And the reason why they were started was to give African Americans who were in the college atmosphere an opportunity to really implement and foster different programs that would help us advance, whether that was in education or just living in society, period. And so these Greek letter organizations collectively are known as the Divine Nine. And they're called the Divine Nine because there are 9 organizations that make up this collective. They include Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, Zeta Phi Beta sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, Iota Phi Theta fraternity, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. And last but not least is Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And the reason why I say last but not least is because that is the organization that I am actually a part of. I attended and graduated from Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, and that is where I had the privilege of joining this organization. And the reason why these organizations are so important to Black history is, as I mentioned, they started in the early 1900s to the early or mid 1900s. And so that was during a time, before the Civil Rights Movement, and during times where Black people in America really had no rights at all. And so these organizations coming together and being founded in the first place was a very huge accomplishment. And one thing that I would like to point out is, while yes, these are sorority and fraternities, and some of you may have heard of sororities or fraternities, or may even have been a part of some sororities and fraternities while you yourselves were in college, one of the big differences between some of the predominantly white fraternities and sororities versus the predominantly Black fraternities and sororities is it's really something that we continue even beyond college. All of the organizations are based upon this lifetime commitment. So even after we graduate, we have graduate chapters where there are different chapters throughout your surrounding communities that will go out and service that area and put on different events and hold different scholarships that are there to assist people who are in high school or even people who are also in college to further their education. So that's one of the things that we really sort of take pride in, is that it goes just beyond the college experience, but it also goes into you as you grow and sort of your life experiences. And so to specifically talk about the organization that I'm a part of, again, it's Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We do have a focus on service, sisterhood, and scholarship. And so within that, there are 5 thrusts that we focus on. Those being your physical and mental health. So much so our organization has actually partnered with Weight Watchers. And so they've developed sort of a program for members of our organization to just help us make sure that we're staying healthy, that we're being fit, and that we're really being cognizant of our mental health. We also have a focus on political awareness and involvement. So again, just making sure that we are aware and we're involved in the political process and what's going on in our country. We also have a focus on international awareness and involvement. And so that's really just being aware of what's going on internationally beyond what's just happening here in America. We also put an emphasis on economic development as well, making sure that we have understanding of our finances and putting on different programs and events to allow people of color to have access to different financial resources. And then we also have a focus on educational development because again, our organization was founded from college educated women, and so having that educational piece is very important to us because we understand the value in having that education. One of the first public acts that the founders of my organization participated in was in March 1913, where they actually participated in the Women's Suffrage March. And the reason why this is so significant is although they were fighting for rights as women, they at the same time didn't even have the same rights as their women counterparts because they were African American. But that was just one of many public acts that the founders of my organization and members thereafter, participated in throughout the years. And some actually famous or significant historical figures that you may have heard of that are part of my organization are women like Shirley Chisholm, Ruby D. Davis, Nikki Giovanni, Aretha Franklin, Lena Horne, the recently dearly departed Cicely Tyson, Soledad O'Brien, Natalie Cole, Angela Bassett. The list really kind of goes on and on, but those are just a few of some of the notable or famous people that are a part of my organization. Also, that's something that's very interesting. You may have been aware of the Black Greek lettered organizations from our current Vice President Kamala Harris. She is also a member of one of the Divine Nine organizations. She's a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And so she also is a part of a legacy of very prominent women. Coretta Scott King, which as you know is Martin Luther King's wife. Maya Angelou, Rosa Parks, the famous director Ava DuVernay, the author Toni Morrison, also the singer Ella Fitzgerald. These were all prominent famous people who were a part of these organizations. Some of the other famous men that are part of the other fraternities include Martin Luther King himself. He was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. Some other members that are a part of that organization was Frederick Douglass, Thurgood Marshall, W.E.B. Du Bois, and also Donny Hathaway. So again, very notable and prominent people that I'm sure some of you have heard of. In the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, we have Langston Hughes, some athletes some of you may know, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal. They are also a part of that organization. I hope you all enjoyed learning a little bit more about African American history and where we came from. Next, you'll actually have the opportunity of seeing another team member sort of delve a little bit deeper into the very beginning of how Africans came to this country and sort of the journey that we were on up until present day. Also, you will be able to see team members that I had the opportunity of actually interviewing, and you'll get a chance to see some of their favorite things as it relates to Black history and Black culture. So I hope that you'll enjoy and that you will know a little bit more about the team members that work here at Harbor's Edge.
Hello, my name is Joseph Dawkins. I currently work for Residential Services as a concierge. I've worked here for roughly about 5 years, and I thoroughly enjoy what I do. I want to talk a little bit about Black history, African American history, if you will, about its origin, how it started, And I also want to talk about why there are so many misunderstandings when it comes down to our history. Our history has been portrayed as something that's passed down word of mouth. And because it's been passed down word of mouth, if it's wrong, it's repeatedly wrong. So I want to just do some clarifications and talk about some things, some of the myths about slavery, some myths about Africa, some semantic type myths, and a lot of the things that make it so misunderstood. And I believe that in understanding a culture and understanding a race and understanding people's background, we get along better. Once we sort of X out the misconceptions, if you will, then we have a better chance of understanding each other. I want to first talk about how we got to America, and one of the largest, I think the most significant misunderstandings that are out there is that black people or African American people came to America as slaves. This is very incorrect. We were kidnapped from Africa, turned into slaves once we got to America. Africa has over 52 countries on that continent, on the continent of Africa. There were 52 countries there. So because there are so many countries there, there are a lot of wars. And there still are. There are wars on every single country, so and on every single continent, rather. So there are a lot of wars now, and there were a lot of wars then, simply because of the number of countries on that continent. And what would happen is this: is that after these wars, typically the people who were brought to America were they were prisoners of war, so to speak. So instead of executing them, instead of leaving them there where they would have to fight them again, they sold them into slavery. Is what they actually did, and it may be viewed as a compassionate thing, because if they did not sort of get rid of them, they'd have to fight them again. So this is what happened. This is how the inception of slavery began. The word race didn't even come into being until the very late 1500s is when the word race came into being. And then slavery, 1619, when slavery came into being, is about 40 years later. So you can see how the word race and the word slavery are intertangled. Before that, people were known by the country that they were from. There was no such thing as race. But race, again, in the late 1600s, the word itself was introduced. And then after the word was introduced, the late 1500s, I'm sorry, and then in 1619, the first slaves were brought into America, into Virginia, from Africa. My particular family, we've traced our background back, all the way back, and we came from this area of Africa here. As I said before, if you can see the different colors, these are all different countries in Africa. And it's a lot of countries on one single continent. Therefore, there was a propensity of disagreements, a lot of disagreements. My particular family came from this area of Africa here. If you can see it there, it's the Equatorial Guinea is where we came out of. My family has a company called Hope for Africa, and what they do is they do tours of Africa. They take people from here and they go back to Africa, tours on guided tours. And in those guided tours, you find a lot of significant things that enhance our understanding of the African continent and a lot of the misunderstandings that are tied to that African continent. So I wanted to clear that up first, that we were not brought to America as slaves. We were people brought to America and turned into slaves once we got here. And that's one misconception. Next misconception, you can't see this, but we'll have it available on next Monday. But it says there were Irish slaves in the American colonies. That is also a myth. There were not Irish. There were a lot of indentured servants that came from Ireland, and they would do work, but then they will be released. So there's a contrast difference there. And the specifics of that difference are here. Again, you'll be able to see that on Monday. The next myth that I have here is that the South succeeded from the Union over the issue of states' rights and not slavery. This is not true. If you look at the actual words that were said by the Southern politicians and those generals, it was because of slavery. Slavery was very lucrative. This country was built on free labor. Whether people like the idea of it or don't like the idea of it, facts are facts. It was built on free labor. And because of that free labor, it became the richest country in the world. The next myth we have here is that only a small percentage of Southerners owned slaves. That's a myth as well. The majority of Southerners in those Confederate states, they owned slaves, inclusive of politicians. Most of our politicians during that period of time, they owned slaves. Not because they, from a moral perspective, they were immoral people, so to speak, but it was lucrative. There was money in having slaves. Therefore, most of them, if not all of them, owned slaves. And then the fourth myth is that the Union went to war to end slavery. That is a myth as well. The Union did not go to war to end slavery. It was just their best option at the time. If you look back at what Abraham Lincoln said, specifically, verbatim, he said that if keeping the slaves in slavery will keep the Union together, then I will keep them in slavery. But it won't keep the Union together. So that's the reason the Union went into war with the South was to keep the Union together. It was not over slavery. Slavery just happened to be the best option of the time. Then the fifth myth I have here is that black soldiers, slave and free, fought with the Confederacy. That is not true at all. Those soldiers, they fought with the Union because they fought for their freedom. The reason why there were so many slave uprising and there was so much warring about slavery is because the African did not agree with the idea of slavery within itself. Did not agree with it at all. So therefore, there was a lot of wars, a lot of uprising over the act of slavery. So those are just some of the myths that I wanted to talk about. And then I wanted to also talk about today. Again, our family came from Equatorial Guinea. New Guinea is where we came from. And when we came here, from a soldier's perspective, we have always thought and felt like if we fought for the country, then we would be equal in this country. This started one of, if not the first person to die in the American Revolution was Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks was a black freed man. He fought, him and 5,000 other black people fought during the American Revolution in hopes that they're not just the definitive or the sound of freedom, they would get that, but they would get the act of freedom, meaning they would be able to move about in society as free men and free women. This is all, and it's that way today. Many black people go to join the services and go to war in an attempt to be treated as equal people. One of the things that was taken from us that a lot of people don't understand is that our education, Africa over the years have had and still has a process of education. And when we were brought here, the very first thing that they did was not allow us to read and write. They refused to let us read and write. They refused to, not because of what we may learn. They refused to because they knew that was embedded in us. Knowing more, doing more, the educational process was embedded in these Africans when they came over. We were the most adaptable people in America. We could adapt to anything. So they knew that if we could adapt to anything, we could also adapt to education. So education was taken from us at that point, and it's been that idea has been passed on down the line. So in a lot of areas now, we're still lagging behind in education. The second thing that was taken from us was the idea of family. The woman and the man would have a child, and that child would be taken from them, and so because they did not want connectivity within the family, because within the family there is strength. These elements were taken from us to take our strength from us. So this happened, and it was passed down and down as well. And you see a lot of that today, where you see single family homes. It's a result of how it began all the way back to the early 1800s. Those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to also talk about in our educational system now, you see a lot of black teachers, especially in public education. This stemmed all the way back from us beginning to understand those things that have been kept from us. So we tried to basically instill in our children to do those things. This is why you find so many in public school, so many of the educators are people of color or black people. In my own family, I have multiple teachers in my family. My grandmother, Sarah Ulmer, was the first black school teacher in Ocala, Florida. My brother, David, he wrote he wrote the Black History curriculum for Broward County school systems. So that's naturally has been embedded in us. The other thing that I want to talk a minute about is about my grandfather. My grandfather's name was Jacob Hope. He was born a slave. That's not my grandfather, not my great-great-grandfather, but my grandfather. He was a slave. He was born in South Carolina. Oak Ridge Plantation in South Carolina is where he was born. That plantation is still in existence in South Carolina. We have taken our current DNA and taken it to Africa. So we know our history very well. We know the beginning of our history rather very well. But I want to talk about those things and again the foods that we've learned to eat. Most of these foods that we learned to prepare rather were prepared based on foods that were thrown away, foods that were given to the animals. What black people did was, out of a sense of survival, they would take these foods that would be fed to the animals, that would be thrown away, and they would learn to cook them and to season them and things like that. That's why our seasonings are different. The way we cook is typically different. One of the things that I want to point out was collard greens. During the 1800s, collard greens was used to feed horses and cows. That's it, horses and cows. Collard greens do not handle your digestive system very well because it was designed for animals. But what they did was they got those collard greens, they learned to cook them a little bit more, and put their own seasoning in those collard greens, and then take those collard greens, and to this day, it's one of the favorite foods that in the African American community. But it began as a southern plant that was raised to feed animals. The other thing that I want to quickly talk about, I'm trying to say things that will sort of break down those barriers so that we don't just look at each other, we understand each other. Right now, if you see black people passing themselves in the aisles or whatever, whether they know each other or not, they sort of nod at each other. They give each other a little nod. That came from slavery. We weren't allowed to talk because we weren't allowed to do things that human beings are typically allowed to do. So what they did was they would nod at each other to remind each other, you're human, I'm human. And it's to this day, when you see blacks look at each other, you'll see that little nod. And even a lot of us don't know where it came from, but that's where it came from. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is there's a term that we use that's used everywhere. It's called nose blind. And everybody know what nose blind means. When you walk into somebody's home who has an animal or something like that, they've been there so long that they've been so accustomed to that smell that they don't even smell it. It's just natural for them. But then you come in from the outside into that home and you smell it and it's loud and clear. And out of courtesy, you don't say anything. You just sort of go along with the program, you smile and you go on. There's a thing called racism blind. Racism blind is this that when people outside of our race say things and do things that they think are all right because it's become natural to them. It's become something that's second nature to them. It is no big deal to them. But to us, it's racist. It is racist. And we just do the same thing. We look at you, we smile, and we just go on. So that's I wanted to bring that up as well, because that also adds to the I guess I don't want to say dysfunction, but it also adds to the separation that we experience with each other sometimes. But those are the things that I wanted to talk about. This particular board will be available. I also will have some charts and even these colors. The colors that I'm wearing now. A lot of people wear these colors and don't know what they represent. These are colors here that represent the earth. Africa, when you go to Africa, you see them using these colors a lot. The reason they're using these colors is because they respect the earth. These are the colors, the red, the green, the browns, that come directly out of the earth. That's why Africans, they respect that, and they put those colors on their clothing. So if you're ever in Africa, you see it in America now, a lot of people are wearing them, of all races are wearing them, but they don't know why. That is why they wear these colors, is because it's in respect to God's earth. So that's all that I have right now. I don't want to press the time and anything like that, but I did want you to understand those few tidbits of information. And if you want to talk more to me about it, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and explain to you what I know.
Hi, my name is Claudia. I've been working for LifeSpace for almost 15 years, and I work in the dining room.
Great. So I'm going to ask you a few questions just to help us celebrate Black History Month. So my first question for you is, what do you like most about being Black and why?
What I like about being Black is our culture. I think that when food is involved, our family gets together and we just have a good time.
And who would you say is your favorite musician, group, or singer, and why?
My favorite music would be like in the 90s, like SWV, TLC, R. Kelly, because it just brings back my childhood.
And what are some of your favorite soul food items and why?
My favorite soul food items would be anything fried, like fried chicken, fried fish, just because I just feel like the smell just comes all around the house.
What is your favorite Black movie or TV show?
My favorite movie would be Napoli Ever After, because it tells a story about what African Americans go through with their hair and how society dictates us and how we feel and how we look at one another.
And who would you say is your favorite Black historical figure?
I would say Martin Luther King, because he played a key role in the American civil rights movement.
Hi, my name is Loretta Hinton. I've been working for LifeSpace about 7 years as a scheduling coordinator. I am really happy that this month has come about, Black History Month. I'm very proud of my heritage. I am a very strong-willed Black woman, and that's the way I was raised, to be independent thinking. And there are so many Blacks that have made it just because they have overcome obstacles and things that were placed in their way. They've had hardships and they have still made it. I just want to let you know that what I know from being around the Blacks, their music, there are singers that have made it through all kinds of obstacles and they never gave up. Such people as Aretha Franklin, B.B. King, those people have been through so much, but they never gave up. Their music never changed. It always told a story. Also, we grew up on foods that kept us healthy, things that nobody else wanted until they realized the benefits. Things like collard greens, sweet potatoes, and of course, fried chicken. Those things that we lived on from day to day that nobody else wanted. But now they're the most expensive things that you can buy. Now also, I like movies. I like movies that I can identify with. The one that I really identified with was written by Tyler Perry. I Can Do Bad All by Myself. Because that's one thing that I was taught, that you don't need anybody to bring you down. You need people to lift you up. And I could identify with this woman in this movie because she went through all kinds of obstacles, had to raise her children by herself. But she made it because somebody reached down to help her up. And we as a people, this is what we have to do in order to make it, because nobody can make it on their own. And, this is what we're all about. And the Black historians, there's famous people that we all know, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, all those people. But my favorite was Claretta King, because I saw what she went through as a woman, standing behind her husband. And he made some decisions that I could not follow, but she followed every one of them. She raised her children under conflict and confusion, but she did it. And she continued after he was killed. She continued to do the same thing. Strong-willed black women, and I can identify with that.
Hello, my name is Chiquita. I have been with Harbor's Edge for 9.5 years. My department I currently work in now is home health. I'm a scheduling coordinator.
Okay, great. So my first question for you is, what do you like most about being black and why?
I would have to say it's the melanin in my skin. Love when the sun hits.
And who is your favorite black musician, group, or singer?
I'd like to say Jill Scott. I really like Jill Scott because she speaks from a reality place and she's more poetic, so I love that.
And what are some of your favorite soul food items and why?
I would have to say Southern fried chicken. Southern fried chicken, some collard greens, you got me.
And what is your favorite black movie or TV show?
It's a kind of old TV show. I would have to say The Cosby. As I was coming up as a young girl, I always had that big dream from The Cosby show. Either I could be a lawyer or a doctor, so The Cosby's.
Okay. And who is your favorite historical black figure and why?
Maya Angelou. I love her poems. One of my favorite poems is A Phenomenal Woman because I always think that's me. So I would have to say Maya Angelou.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I work in concierge for the leisure department, service department, and I've been here for about 2 weeks.
Okay, good. So the first question I have for you is, what do you like most about being Black American and why?
I love being Black, and the reason why is because I love our culture. Our history is very rich and goes very deep. I also like our style, our jargon. I like the way that we can look at each other and we know exactly what the other person is saying without saying it. Also, I like the many ways that we get to wear our hair as a form of expression. I also like our style, our choice in music is very influential. What the culture does and the music and how it influences other cultures around us. So we give a lot when it comes to the arts, I would say. So we're very colorful people with very colorful personalities. We're not all the same, and what you see is kind of what you get. So,
Who is your favorite Black musician, singer, or group?
Beyonce. And I say Beyonce because she's using her platform right now to bring a lot of awareness to, Black history, culture, not only for Black Americans, but in like Senegal, what she's doing with her latest album she just had. So she's doing a lot, to educate herself and also bring awareness through her platform. So that's pretty big of her.
What are some of your favorite soul food items and why?
First, mac and cheese. And that's because I like the different layers and textures of it. I don't like one simple cheese in it. I like it to have 3 cheeses or better. So the more cheese, the better. And I also like sweet potato pie. It's a very common Black dessert. I don't know a house that I go to of my family and they don't have sweet potato pie. So I love sweet potato pie.
Okay. And what is your favorite Black movie or Black TV show?
Now that's pretty hard. I actually have a few. My current one that I'm watching right now is Sisters, and it kind of talk about pretty much 4 different characters that come from different backgrounds and deal with the issues that we as Black women have to deal with today. They're all from different financial backgrounds, so everybody has like a character they can kind of relate to.
Okay, very good. And who would you say is your favorite notable Black person?
That will be our former First Lady, Michelle Obama. And that's because she represents the epitome of, I guess, what a Black woman is. I like her style, the way she carries herself. And, you know, she has a strong educational background. And she looks very good on Obama's side. So she just represents class and grace in every way, all with maintaining her sense of a Black woman. So, you know, I love everything about her.
How you doing? My name is Marquise Baker. I'm currently lead culinary coach here at Harbor's Edge. I've been with LifeSpace on and off for 17 years.
Great. So the first question is, what do you like most about being Black and why?
The culture, how strong and resilient that we are. You know, we've been through so much in our history from our ancestors to currently now, and we still stand strong and try to fight for change and just go through all the obstacles, and we always find a way to pick ourselves up and you know, to remain strong and positive and try to look for a better solution.
Very good. And who would you say are some of your favorite Black musicians, groups, or singers, and why?
I listen to a lot of old school music, as I would say, like the Isley Brothers, Marvin Gaye. You know, I like subtle music that smooths your mind and you know, things you can relate to. I listen to some current artists nowadays, but it's all sound the same. So I listen to a lot of, you know, old school music.
Okay. And what are some of your favorite soul food items and why?
Me, oh man, whew. Big mac and cheese and fried chicken. I had to have mac and cheese at least 2 or 3 times a week. It's my favorite dish. I eat mac and cheese with just about anything, and fried chicken, absolutely.
Okay. And what is your favorite Black movie or TV show?
Whew. My favorite Black movie, you know, is Black Panthers. You know what I mean? I thought, you know, when that movie came out, it came out at the right time, and a time that I think a lot of Black people needed it. You know, it brought us a lot together. It made us feel strong. You know what I mean? It made us feel like, you know what, we have something to stand on. TV show, you know, I like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Bill Cosby. Just about it. You know, I try to watch those, you know, back in the day TV shows. The current TV shows nowadays is a little bit of too much scripted and too much fake stuff, I should say.
Got it. And lastly, who is your favorite historical Black figure?
I have a few. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Obama. You know, Martin Luther King for, you know, the things he was, you know, his goal, his dream was trying to draw, you know, everyone to be equal. And Malcolm X for, you know, letting you know, listen, fight for what you believe in. Don't be scared to fight for what you believe in and stand up for what you think is right. And Obama just, you know, letting you know you can break through any barriers in life as long as you put your mind to it, no matter what the obstacle is, absolutely.
The thing that I like most about being Black American is how resilient we are. You know, we have faced a lot of hardships and struggles from the inception of when we were brought over to this country to even through today. We've, you know, faced decades of mistreatment and really a plethora of other, you know, injustices throughout the years, and even currently to today. Yet we still continue to survive and even in some cases thrive. And so I think that our culture in being resilient, being resourceful, being able to make a way out of no way in times where the resources we did have were limited, yet we were able to make them stretch and able to make them work for us and our families. That is something that I truly am proud of, to know that I come from such a resilient group of people. The next thing is music. Music is such an integral part of myself as well as my family. I actually attended a performing arts school for elementary and middle school, and my major was music. So I played the viola, I sang in the chorus, I played handbells and the keyboard. So my favorite musicians, they come from Jimi Hendrix, B.B. King, Chuck Berry. They all played the guitar and were great at it. One of my newest favorite artists is Her. She goes by the name Her. She's a singer, songwriter, but she's also a very talented guitarist. Some of my favorite groups. Again, my family always played a lot of old school music. So I love the Temptations, the Four Tops, Earth, Wind, and Fire. All of that music was playing a lot in my household growing up. So I still love them to this day. I also really enjoy singers, people who can truly sing. So Aretha Franklin, Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, just to name a few. So I can't always just name one because I love music so much, and African Americans have definitely, contributed to sort of the blueprint of every genre that's popular today. One of my most favorite Black history or historical figures would definitely be James Baldwin. And he was a novelist, he was a playwright. And one of the reasons why I really like him is because he was a truth teller, regardless of how hard that truth may have been. He was very direct, he was very upfront in, really talking about sort of the racism that he experienced and that he dealt with, and he did it unapologetically, and that I really admire and respect that about him. Also, my favorite soul food items, I would have to say, would be candied yams and mac and cheese, mainly because I love the warmth of those foods. Those are comfort foods, and so they just really make me feel good inside. And so I would say those two things would definitely be my favorite soul food. Also, my favorite TV show is kind of an old show. It's called A Different World. And the reason why I love that show so much is because it was the first time that we actually saw Black people on TV attending college and sort of their college experiences. And watching that show was really one of the reasons why I also wanted to go to college, to be able to have, sort of that cultural experience of being around people who looked like me, but also had the same goals of advancing our education, and to ultimately be able to advance our careers. And then one of my favorite movies, I would definitely have to say, would be Soul Food. And while, yes, that movie did sort of cater around the different foods that African Americans would eat, it also really sort of talked about the different family dynamics and the different things that we go through, as family members, and how in a lot of Black families, the matriarchs are sort of like the staple people in our families, and so we sort of come together and come around those matriarchs. And it also talked about how when you don't necessarily have those matriarchs, when they pass on, how it can truly affect the dynamic of the families and sort of that lineage and that history being passed down. So that was definitely my top movie that I would say, because it really just incorporated everything that I could relate to.
My name is Valerie Smith, and I work here at Harbour Edge and in the culinary department. I've been working here for 2.5 years.
Great. So, who is your favorite black musician, group, or singer, and why?
My favorite group is the OJs because when the family get together and we have a family reunion, that's the perfect song, the family reunion. And they were the first one who created. And then it also says parts where the background, some of your history and whatnot. So that's my favorite song. I mean, group.
Okay, the next question is, what are some of your favorite soul food items and why?
My favorite soul food, I'm starting with the collard greens because you can put neck bone, you can put you can put turkey wings, you can put ham hock, and all that is southern black soul food to me.
Great. And what is your favorite black movie or TV show?
My TV show is The Good Times because it reminds me of family issues, when family get together, how they laugh and enjoy each other, and it just bring back old memories.
Very good. Lastly, who is your favorite black historical figure and why?
My favorite black historical figure is Martin Luther King because he had a dream that one day the land will be free.
Hello, my name is Joseph Dawkins. I work here at Harbor's Edge in resident services as a concierge. I've worked here for almost 5 years.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions next to help us celebrate Black History Month.
Okay.
The first question is, what do you like most about being black and why?
What I like most about being black, I like everything, but what I like most about being black is versatility. We are an extremely versatile people. A lot of that versatility was born out of necessity, but it has become such a great asset for us. So if the one thing if I had to identify one thing that I like most, it would be our versatility.
Okay, and who is your favorite black musician, artist, or singer, or even group?
My favorite group was the Temptations, the original Temptations. Those Temptations, when they sang what's known as situational music. When we were growing up, that's what I know that it's changed the name now, but it was called situational music when we were growing up. All of their songs that they sang, it sang about a situation that you may or may not have gone through. So that's my favorite group, the Temptations, and the reason is they were situational singers.
Okay, and what would you say are your favorite soul food items?
My favorite soul food item is stewed chicken. I love stewed chicken because typically when you stew chicken, and if it's done right, there's a gravy that is done with that comes from that stewed chicken, and then I can in turn take that gravy and put it on the other food that I have on that plate, and it gives it that same sort of savoring taste. So that's the soul food dish, and excuse me, and that methodology of eating it is a soulish way of eating it. So it's the stewed chicken, and it's because of the gravy.
Good. And what would you say is your favorite black film or TV show?
My absolute favorite black film or / movie would be Imitation of Life. Imitation of Life depicts a setting that we're all, if you're black, you can identify with. Because of the multitude of struggles that you know about, that you've heard about, you sometimes want to be something other than what you are. And but eventually, at some point, you got to come back to who you are. And that's sort of the crux of that movie. And that is my absolute favorite movie of all time.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, who is your favorite black historical figure and why?
That's absolute as well. It would be Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was born a slave. He was born in the latter part of the 1800s, born into slavery, and somehow was able to escape slavery, able to escape Maryland, I think it was Maryland, escape Maryland, get to New York and to Massachusetts and become an orator. He become an abolitionist, become a writer, and all of those things that he became, those things were ignited by his struggle. So that versatility, as I talked to you earlier about my favorite thing about being black, it ties to Frederick Douglass. He was able to accomplish all of those things, from writing to warring. Even though it was out of a struggle, he turned it into an asset, and he became one of the most versatile human beings ever known.